I think a lot of, especially in tech, there's this sort of hero culture
Yeah.
of like, oh, I saved the day. I'm like, good job saving the day. Why did the day need saving?
Yes.
Um, like we screwed up and you had to save the day. So good job cleaning up your screw up.
Hey, Luca here. Welcome to a new episode of the Refactoring Podcast, where every 2 weeks we interview a world-class tech leader and we discuss how to write good software and work well together. Today's guest is Michael Lopp, better known as Rands, who is Senior Director of Engineering at Apple and writer of several popular books about engineering management, including Managing Humans, which is a personal favorite of mine. With Rands, we discussed his journey into writing and the impact it had on his personal and professional growth. We reflected on his leadership style and the complexities of modern engineering management. So let's dive right into it. Hi Rands, welcome and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. And thanks for asking whether to call me Rands, Lopp, or Michael, because nobody really knows what's going on.
Exactly. So I may still have some confusion, and during this chat, I will switch to call you Michael, whatever. So I hope it's fine.
No problem.
So, Rance, you are a senior director of engineering at Apple. You have had an incredible career at many companies like Slack, Palantir, Netscape, and more. But to me personally, you're first and foremost an incredible writer through your books on engineering management, like The Art of Leadership, Managing Humans, and of course your blog, Rants in Repose, which you've been writing for how long? Like 20 years or something?
Yeah, like 2 decades or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look back. Yeah, the quality and the consistency as well. Long before it was cool, I should say.
Yeah, I blogged actually before there was blogs. This is actually the second iteration. I did one a long time called the Bit Sifter Digest. Before things were blogs, like no one blog software didn't exist. I was like publishing it myself. So, but it was the same format. It was like latest today, latest stuff. Little paragraphs. This is what I'm eating. This is what I'm doing. This sort of thing. So then I stopped. Then blogging got popular. I'm like, oh, cool. This is kind of fun. And then I ended up writing Rands for 20 years.
Yeah, so we usually start these interviews by asking guests about how they got into tech right from the start. But since
Yeah.
you've been writing for so long, I want to try a variation here. How did you start writing about work, thinking
Yeah.
about writing, building a routine?
Yeah. So, writing. I've done it since I was a kid. I've been journaling since I was like about 14. So and so I've like got piles of journals around, and that's just I've had the habit for a long time. That was just for me, obviously. I wasn't publishing that or not. I think what one of the accelerants was just sort of tech arriving and sort of like the present omnipresence of computers and whatnot. And typing just made it feel like I could do it and be more efficient. So I was like
Mm,
writing essays, and I wrote a book that you'll never read, just on the computer because it felt so empowering to be able to like, as opposed to like, dear
yeah,
diary. It was like a lot more. So I got just a ton done that way, and I think just got comfortable with it. So it was always a thing that I enjoyed doing, and I got compliments from people, even like I sent emails. People were like, "Are you a writer?" I'm like, I write emails. So anyway, the change was the blog, like we talked about,
mm,
Rands and Repose, and sort of getting in that habit of publishing stuff. And
mm,
publishing isn't as much. I mean, publishing's hard in terms of you're like publishing and sharing with the world. But the
yeah,
harder part is really the feedback piece, and that was the wonderful thing about blogs back now, but also back then was you could see how it did by how
yeah,
many people showed up and they tell their friends and da da da. Da. And I wrote a piece. I was starting to write regularly, but for like 12 people. And I wrote a piece about one-on-ones.
yeah,
And this was my first like experience with viral because I don't know, 50 to 100 people showing up a day, and suddenly it was like 12,000, and like this, it's just this flood, and they just all show up and they're putting comments and being happy with you and being sad with you and all that sort of thing. So but more importantly, it taught me kind of what the things are that sort of resonated with folks. So I was writing about stupid stuff, but then I started writing about leadership stuff, and that was really resonating with folks, especially engineers who really didn't have a playbook. There's a lot of MBA talk out there and books
yes,
that sound good, but they're not really for engineers. So I found that sort of speaking, writing about leadership for engineers resonated, and I resonated not because I thought it was a good idea. It resonated because everyone showed up when I started writing about one-on-ones or public speaking or any number of topics there. So, um, but I think the thing that keeps me going is the feedback's great.
Hmm.
Blogging's changed, social media showed up. That's a whole nother thing as well. But for me, it's a way of writing is a way of crystallizing my thoughts. It kind of a
Yes.
thing I always say is like writing makes me smarter about the topic that I'm writing about. Because anyone can just blah 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 have an opinion, but I just heard this from a Johnny Ive video from last night. It takes opinions and kind of makes them ideas because they're two different things,
Yes.
right? Ideas are like concrete things. Opinions are like um, I don't like red walls or whatever the heck it is, right? Ideas are these concrete things, and I think and it takes opinions that I have or feelings that I have and turns them into ideas. So
Yeah.
that's why I keep on doing it because it feels like it makes me smarter or just more considered or more ideas about the things I care about.
Hey, before we continue, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by Swarmia, the engineering intelligence platform that serves some of the best software companies in the world, from startups like Lovable and Superhuman to scale ups like Miro and Webflow, all the way to Fortune 500s. By combining data from all the tools your product and engineering teams are already using, Swarmia gives everyone in your organization visibility into where engineering time is going, the progress of cross-team initiatives, and the bottlenecks that are slowing teams down. So what makes Swarmia special is that it combines proven software development metrics with feedback from developer experience surveys. It's a platform engineers actually want to use, not just another monitoring tool they have to tolerate. And instead of throwing you into a bottomless pit of data, Swarmia automatically identifies patterns and delivers actionable signals to you, complete with practical steps you can take to improve. So get 20% off your first year by booking a demo at swarmia.com/refactoring. Yeah, I love this answer because when I speak with writers or people who write alongside their normal jobs, they all say the same thing that
Hmm.
is something that makes them smarter and then
Yeah.
clarifies their thoughts. Um,
Yep.
and so I wanted to follow up by asking, so how has your writing work has been good for your personal and professional growth? So not just making you smarter, but maybe has helped
Yeah.
you on the job.
Yeah. I haven't had to write a resume in like a decade because um, people know who I am. So there's a certain amount of nerd fame that came with it. So that's both the topic and just luck. So I haven't really had to. It's sort of I'm a known quantity now, which
Yeah.
that's a selfish sort of thing. Um, uh, I think it also. Hmm, I have a lot of thoughts. I sort of repeated the prior answer, but like I can say one-on-ones are good, but I can tell you deeply
Yes.
and with excruciating detail why they are. And by the way, it wasn't just that one essay. It was sort of deeply considering a thing for years and years. And even flip-flopping on it. Like I wrote, I don't know, 15 years ago, hey, managers, stop coding. This was super bad advice, like really bad advice. Because I think you got to keep on, you got to learn about your craft all the time. And I discovered that via discussion and thinking about it and that sort of thing. So like long consideration of ideas is a thing I get out of that. And I also just think I mean this in a positive way. It's just sort of therapy to
Yeah.
kind of, especially in this day and age, where it's just sort of like you feel helpless about whatever the heck's going on in your state, country, city, whatever the hell. And it sort of gives you an ability to be empowered about your thoughts and not what necessarily action, but at least consideration, which could turn into action and consequence. But to me, it just gives me a grounding in terms of what I care about and what I can sometimes do about a thing.
Yeah, I've loved this answer. And I mean, I write a newsletter full time, so I get a lot of questions by people about advice about how to write more or
Right,
whether
right,
writing is good or useless for
right.
their career, for themselves. And so you have kind of answered this already, but do you think, I mean, how much of this value that you mentioned came from, let's say, going the full distance as you have written books? I mean, you've done a lot of writing work versus you would have gotten a lot of value even by just writing casually, like, I don't know, one
Hmm.
article per month or just
Yeah,
as a hobby.
it's a good question. Um, I, I th- I like the line you just said, finishing, like doing a book, right? I mean,
Yes.
you can just sit there and kind of write 100 words every day, which is a great habit, by the way. And if anyone asks me how to write, I say write 100 words a day. So many days you can do it, and believe it or not, you'll end up with a book. And everyone goes, "What?" And I'm like, "It's hard work. Got to do it a lot."
Yeah.
So, and that's the piece I think about books and whatnot is my books are, you've read them, are sort of mostly aggregations of things I've written online with some unique stuff for the book and maybe a different edit or different sort of layout or kind of order to the pieces. But it's really just the essays kind of combined
Yeah.
together. I haven't written a book where it's like beginning, middle, and end. And but even that is, I've got two going on right now, and I'm late on one. There's a set of lessons to be learned by finishing a thing, especially a
Mm.
hard thing. And books are hard. Even with me sort of spreading it out over 2 or 3 years, like right now, stress is high because I'm sitting here staring at like needing to write out about 15 chapters in the next 3 months. That's a crap ton of writing.
Yeah.
And but when I get done with it, and I can, there's something about holding it in your hands. I know people like Kindles and your iPads, and those are great, but I'm a book reader. I like paper. I like holding it in my
Physicality.
hands.
Yes.
Yeah, and to me, like they're on the walls here. I have the covers from the books here, so it's also sort of a sense of accomplishment and achievement, if you will. And that's, I think that's just basic human 101 stuff of like feeling like you've done stuff. So writing casually and great. I do this all the time, but there's also this sort of big moments in your life where you've accomplished something that I think are just, I think our brains are wired. My brain is wired to like doing that, including, and it is hard, like hard, like miserable hard at the end.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I get done writing a book. I don't want to write ever again because that last 2 weeks, I'm just like churning out what I think is garbage. I've done some amazing writing during that time, and I've created some garbage too. But that stress, that deadline, whatever that is, I think is really important to kind of building your confidence, building your skill set,
Yes.
and also just your kind of joy as a human.
Yeah, so it's like when you run a marathon, at least that's what they tell me
Yeah,
because I've
yeah,
never done. But
mm,
when you finish, you never want to do one ever again.
yeah,
But then, like after a week, you want to do another one. It's like
yeah.
a runner's high. Yeah,
I get so, this happens every book. I get so tired of the Rand's voice in my head because he's kind of a little snarky, and he's a little pithy, and he's a little and I hate him. I really do, because he's
yeah,
just, I kind of have to conjure this voice that I really
yeah,
like, by the way, but like, in concentrated form, it's just okay. I don't ever want to think about this guy again. So,
yeah.
but
Is
it's
in your
just, that's part of the
mind,
process.
is that voice in your mind like a slightly different voice than the
It's
one that shows up at work,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
the
I
others,
don't
not
know. That's a
yourself?
great. Someone should think about that. It's not me. Because I do have a. This is another nice thing about doing a lot of writing is you kind of find a way that you like to write.
Yeah.
Like, I
Hmm.
was just writing this piece I just published recently about AI, and I was getting to this point where I was just like angry about my topic, and I started like 3 words period, 3 words period, 3 words period, just to be like, hey, I'm making this point, and like, by the way, you pass that through Grammarly, and Grammarly is like trying to fix it. I'm like, don't touch my shit. And the Grammarly does great things. I'm a horrible speller. I like, help me with ands and semicolons and whatever the
Yeah,
heck.
me too.
But there's other parts which are very much me and very much totally not what the robots are expecting, which is the point,
Yeah.
is having that sort of voice. But that's in my head. I can kind. That's the voice is this guy who's me, obviously, but like he's kind of got a different way of speaking.
Yeah,
And
it's a
I
version of
read what
you.
I write, and then I see how I speak, like I do public speaking. They feel like different people to me, but I mean, it's all the same person. I just have a personality disorder or something.
Yeah, love this. It's complicated, but
Yeah, it is.
it totally resonates. So I want to talk about some of this writing work, especially managing humans was particularly
Hmm.
special to me. I mean, I've been
Yep.
writing this newsletter for about 4 years, and I remember when I started thinking about writing like a regular newsletter, it was like in 2020.
Hmm.
Completely, I was thinking not only about the topics, but also the style, the tone of voice, and many things, that
Yep.
writers think. I don't know.
Yep.
And luckily, I mean, completely by chance, in that time, I also read Managing Humans, and it blew my mind because it was not the first book on engineering management
Yeah.
and these topics that I had read. I had read many that I loved, like The Manager's Path and others.
Right.
but it was different in a way that I don't know. It didn't shower me with frameworks, but it
Right.
was more about giving me a taste about
Hmm.
what real engineering management looks
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it kind of said, "Hey, this thing it's a mess, but it's okay. We're in this together." So
Yeah. Yeah.
give me this kind of vibe. So did I
Yeah.
get this right? That is, I mean, for us engineers who thrive with systems and controlling things, is this management thing instead about ambiguity and chaos and this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you just asked a really good question, and it's a complicated answer. Number one, the book is a reflection of me, and I'm an engineer, but as you can read, I have the empathy thing, I have the people skills thing. You read this, but like, I had a manager at Netscape,
Hmm.
and he was like, got a read on me in like 3 months. He's like, "Hey, Lopp, Michael, whatever your name is, this people thing, your ability to read the room, to understand how people work, and all this sort of thing. You think this is boring because
Mm.
no one else knows how to do it. Because no, sorry, you think it's boring because you know how to do it and it's just obvious to you."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're a good engineer. You're not the best engineer I've ever met, but this people thing is you're world class at, and that's the thing you need to lean into because we lack that a lot in high tech, is
Yeah.
that sort of that people side of the equation. So that's why I lean into less process stuff and frameworks and whatnot, and more just sort of a way of describing things, hopefully artfully, colorfully, and um, in a way that that is appealing to folks, as opposed to showering you with frameworks and this sort of thing. But I don't that those frameworks and that process piece are really actually super important.
Yeah.
I'm just not that good at it. And I mean, I can do it and I can tell you what to do and blah blah blah. But more of what I'm likely going to do if we're working together, I'm going to say, "Hey, can you go talk to Julia, because her process
Yeah.
skills, her execution skills are 10 times better than mine." And I delegate and I give that to her. So I'm glad you like the book, but the whole being a good leader is this whole set of skills, some of which you're good at and some of which you're bad at. And you have to, I'm glad it appealed to you, but it's not the only way. You need other people to actually be a successful leader, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course, of course. So you said you had the skills, but maybe you were not even aware of that. That you were
Yeah.
not aware
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you scored high
Yep.
on these skills. And did you
Yeah.
know what you were getting into when you started like managing people or running a team at Netscape?
No, it's just, it was, it's horrific. I always ask this when I do a talk. I say, how many of you, usually leadership talks, right?
Yeah,
I asked the room, how many of you actually had training to be a leader? And like, I'd say maybe 30, 40% raise their hand consistently. So
training
no
for
training,
yeah,
like
yeah,
60%. The majority of folks have not had any training to be a leader. Seems like an important role, right?
yeah,
So maybe that's
probably.
gotten better, but it's such a, and it's weird because it's such an important thing that, why are we not
Mm,
really doing a ton of work to build these folks? It really seems that it's sort of like throw people in the deep end and like pray that you like, is he or she good at this sort of thing? And that first couple years, 2 or 3 years, dude, like this is before I was really writing, just horrible mistakes,
mm,
horrific mistakes, like career defining mistakes, eroding trust, just bad, right? So,
yeah.
but I'm learning, and then it's actually one of the reasons I started writing. I'm like, hey, I think I figured this out, and I wanted to tell somebody. So that's where it started, is that piece. But this, it's such an industry, is such a, we don't do the training bit, and maybe that's
Yeah.
okay. Maybe part of this, and this is maybe one of the reasons you like the book, is like doing it is actually the best way to learn. And my book is like, here is sort of a journal of
Yeah.
a lot of that sort of stuff, so you can see that glimpse of it and be like, oh gosh, because your work situation is different than mine,
Yeah.
which is different than hers. So but getting that data and sort of, cross pollinating, I think is important to kind of that early learning.
Yeah, I think like many people have this notion that these skills are kind of like magical, that you can only
Yeah. No.
learn them on the job, right? So,
Yeah.
but you think instead there is a gap in the sense that we should be more intentional and provide training to fresh managers. I mean, there is more that we can do about
I
this.
think I don't. Yes, kind of. I think it's more about having a mentor because I
Hmm.
really do believe that the battle tested way of going through it is a good way to do it. And I don't think sitting and going to an offsite or sitting in a conference room is
Mm.
like gonna or maybe reading a book. Depends on how you learn. But I think the one that really resonates with me is as a new manager, who's that person that's not your manager, who's sort of your mentor type, who you can Slack or message or have coffee with or whatever, and ask him or her like, "Hey, what's going on here?" Da, da, da. Because
Yeah.
that's kind of the similar to the book, I think, in terms of
Yeah.
we're a little more real time and a little more personalized to you, how you kind of course correct as you're going through these really bumpy couple of years. But it's still, I mean, I make it sound like mentors are like your first 5 years. Your entire life, these are people are valuable. But I think that it's really critical early on is to have that buddy, someone that you can talk to because you're going to screw up constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. So one thing I wanted to ask is that we often say that, I mean, frameworks are important, but there is no like a conclusive, unique framework about how to lead
Sure.
teams and humans.
Right.
There are many
Right. Right.
styles and different types of leaders, and some might be
Yep.
more calm, empathetic, care about
Yeah. Yeah.
relationships, while others, I don't know, they break down walls, but they're also abrasive, controversial, Elon
Yep.
style, you might say. So, do
Yep.
you have a style yourself? How would you define it?
I mean, you can already infer it a lot from talking to me and also the books and stuff. I'm sort of Mr. Listen. I'm
Mm,
Mr. kind of understand the situation that I walked into, and I'm less sort of come in there bull in the china shop, say, "Hey, everybody, this is what we're gonna go do." And by the way, that's delightful for me. But I've gotten feedback, especially as a senior leader, as a VP at other places, where they're like, "You don't talk a lot," and I'm like, that's because you're talking all the time, um, which is a snarky, passive aggressive response. It's really hard for me to actually. The most recent new book that I'm writing right now is sort of around sort of being a lot more proactive, directive, more
mm,
like stand up and rally the troops type because it's not my natural state. I'm a fine
mm,
leader, but mine is sort of like listening to, okay, I got four people here. What's going on here? Okay, who needs what here? What do I need out of this
mm.
situation? How am I going to gently shape this and push it in a direction? I think a lot of time when people are telling me, "Hey, you're kind of quiet," it's because they're pretty loud and they're also
Mm,
looking for like big, huge sort of like PR events about things my teams are doing. I don't care about the PR. I don't want the recognition. I want us to be successful and I want us to get things done. I think a lot of, especially in tech, there's this sort of hero culture
yeah.
of like, "Oh, I saved the day." I'm like, good job saving the day. Why did the day need saving?
Yes.
Um, like we screwed up and you had to save the day. So good job cleaning up your screw up.
Yeah.
It's so like this is a line I say a lot is like nobody claps when nothing happens, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of my style is sort of like you probably hopefully never going to notice it because people are just getting their work done.
Yeah.
And we're not flashy and we're not generally, driving off the cliff. So it's a really easy way, it's a kind of a clever way to say I'm doing a lot, just you don't notice. But I think that's the case is that a lot of the work I do is in terms of leading, guiding, delegating, whatever, is pretty light touch, even though I have
Mm.
clear things I want to do and I know what a healthy team looks like. And if I need to step up and save the day on the blah, 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 I have many playbooks to get that done. But that means I screwed up earlier and I prefer
Yeah.
not to screw up earlier. That was a good
Uh,
answer.
I love this definition. I love this answer because, in my view, like good engineering is very often like boring engineering,
Yeah,
boring stuff,
exactly.
right? When
Yeah,
things are
exactly.
exciting, chances are we are kind of on the wrong side of things.
I mean, you want to have some excitement. You
Yes,
want to
yes.
figure out how to push the team and to do new things. 100%. And when you do those things, the probability of it being harder to do than something which is, obvious is much higher.
Yeah.
So, but even with the innovation, even with the pushing of folks, good leaders who've done it before know like, okay, cool. This is not standard operating product that we're building. This is going to be a stretch. What
Mm.
does that mean? Means that any estimate that you give me, I'm going to double in my head, maybe triple. And you're going to be like, no, 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 I can do it. I'm like, yeah, you're not counting the other 17 people you're working with and the interrelated cost of doing that sort of thing, which isn't your job. That's my
Yeah.
job. So so I'm going to buffer a lot more for something which is a lot more complex, so that we have more
Yeah.
time to deal with the things we can't predict right now. So we don't have those explosions, and sometimes the explosions still happen, and that's fine. But I know how to deal with those too. They are, to me, always bug reports. They're
Yeah.
always things that I'm like, okay, cool. Why did I not? I've done this a lot. Why did I not predict or account for whatever the explosion is?
Yeah. No, I agree. And when you think about your style and your way of doing things, how much has this evolved over time, or is this
Mm,
mostly driven by your personality,
right.
your character?
Yeah. It's a good one. I mean, I think I'm probably majority. This is just who I am, and it's sort of a
Mm,
comfortable way for me to have my leadership style. Let's call that 60% of it. There's
mm,
another 40%, and this is the hard part, which is 100% the opposite of how I feel. I'll give you a really good example. Like feedback,
mm.
constructive feedback for every human, I think, is hard, right? When you're screwing up and I need to tell you that you're screwing up, I feel bad. You know you're screwing up. When I start talking about it, you know what I'm about to say, and then you feel bad. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so, what usually happens, what mostly happens, is people avoid actually doing it early
Yeah.
until it's actually a 4 alarm fire. And then it's really bad. So, back to, no one claps when nothing happens. um, I have learned that to tell you that it's a screw up way before it's like even a bad one. Like I say,
Yeah.
hey, did you said this thing in this meeting? I think this means you mean this. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Okay, great. I've seen this before, and let's not do this because of this and this. And you're like, I was kind of just YOLO. You're like a little
Yeah.
put back because I'm sort of nipping something in the bud that is really not an issue yet. It would have been an issue in 3 months because I could see what your intent was or your strategy or your desires, and I'm giving you that feedback early, and you're a little pissed at me because I'm like slapping your hand. I'm not slapping your hand, but I'm like giving you this feedback way before it's an issue, so you don't think it's a bad thing. And you go,
Yeah.
"Okay, great, no problem. Whatever, dude." And then you change your thing, nothing happens. That's hard because that's kind of like I know that I'm kind of being a little more stricter or a little earlier about giving the feedback, and
Yeah.
there's other things like that which are just learned behaviors that if I was just kind of coasting and not working, I'd be like, oh, whatever, that'll blow up in your face later, not my problem. So I have things, habits, skills, playbooks that are counter to kind of my natural state, if you will.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned feedback because this is a very frequent comment and thing that people do not get right. I feel at
Yeah,
least early in
agreed.
their careers in management. Do you think that? I mean, when it comes to people who get into management, there are some like usual suspects of people that get wrong, yeah, more often than others, or it depends on your on their characteristics. I mean,
I
even this
mean,
feedback thing, it was because of how you are as a person,
yeah.
or is this like a common thing that most people get wrong?
It's really, I mean, everyone's sort of different, but like the greatest hits of sort of new managers
Yeah,
are feedback.
yeah,
Another one that is a classic is delegation.
mm,
Engineers are particularly bad at this because we really like building stuff with our hands. So that
yeah,
idea of giving up their Legos and giving them to someone else on the team is hard, hard, hard. It's more of a manager of managers things where you really have to fully delegate that piece. So that delegation thing is one of my. It's like when someone becomes a manager, I'm like, are you ready to feel like you're not doing anything anymore? You're doing
yeah,
stuff. But it's going to take a sort of reframing of what you consider to be work, to actually do that, as opposed to like closing bugs or writing code or doing whatever that is. So there's that delegation piece, which is someone have to get over, and that's like like if I had to pick one thing, that's it.
mm,
The feedback piece is definitely a one, but it's a larger sort of bucket of like performance management, which isn't just like when it's bad. It's also like, cool, I need to get you to the next level. So here are the three things you need to go do. And do you understand that? And then you say, no, I don't understand. I mean, like, great, let's have a conversation about that. So performance management, both the positive and the negative versions of that, is another one that is there. It's really, really tricky. Um,
mm,
those
mm.
are a couple. There's a bunch like that
Yeah, love this feedback, delegation, and performance management. Definitely greatest hits. I think at least
though.
if I think of my own experience, I agree
Yeah.
very much. And so
Yep.
I asked you how you personally changed and how you learned things throughout your career, but
Yep.
how do you think instead engineering management as a whole has changed in the last, I don't know, 20 years? I mean, if you think, for example, at the things you have written even
Yeah.
back in the past, that you can, are there things that you go back and look at them and you think this is just not true anymore?
Well, I mean, I said they got one right now, which is sort of, engineering leadership, not coding, or not kind of being very deeply aware of the technology. I kind of flip
Mm,
flopped on that. I think that's incredibly important, and I think that's
mm,
changed over the years. I don't know, like it's for every kind of Randsian sort of team that is small and tight and not a huge amount of direct reports, and the org is pretty flat. You've got Googles of the world that are ginormous teams that are many layers or this sort of thing, and you can't argue they're not doing. I mean, I don't know how they're doing, but like there's lots of different styles that work. So um, I would never do that. I like
mm,
small teams with empowered engineers generally building consumer software, so things I can understand, and not necessarily enterprise software. So, but it's just there's like you said earlier, like there's just so many ways to kind of get it done. The
mm,
directive jerk types
mm.
are all over, man. And and I'm not a fan, but you can't say there's not a lot of these folks that are actually what for whatever definition of success you want are really successful. And maybe that
Mm.
probably means there's a me hiding in the a me type person hiding in the hallway who's kind of like smoothing it over and making that jerk more palatable. I am a fan. You can go look at my career. I am a fan of sort of strong product CEOs, and whether that's Slack or Pinterest or my former current employer. I mean, Apple before and
Yeah.
currently. I like that. I think it cuts through a lot of the BS when you have a really
Mm.
talented leader out there, kind of cutting through and saying, "This is what we're doing." I love that. And sometimes that's a different personality than
Yeah.
sometimes I am, and those folks are
Yeah.
essential there. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to how's it changed. To be blunt, it's moving a lot faster.
Mm.
That's what definitely going on, which is making it a lot harder, I think, for teams to kind of learn from their from the. I was listening to this thing last night. It's going so fast right now that we're not really able to adapt and kind of learn what the new playbook is as quickly, and that's
Yeah.
that's a challenge. That's not a function of how long you've been in industry. That's just like how quickly things are changing here, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating, but it's also just like, whoo, dang, this is.
Yeah, it feels like I mean, technology and the things that you can do are changing way faster than
Hmm.
companies who are, I mean, like small
Yeah,
societies and people systems
yeah,
can adapt to this. So
yeah.
I think there would be a latency, like a lag between
Hmm.
the how you can operate at your
Yeah,
best, I don't know, and how your company is functioning, which has still not
yeah,
adjusted. I don't
yeah.
know.
I agree.
And you mentioned, for example, uh, a lot of layering, big tech, Google. Do you think we are getting into a future where we are doing without a lot of this layering, getting leaner? There's a lot of talk, of course, with AI that you need less middle managers, less layers, and
Yeah.
less overhead.
Yes, I think change is coming. That's correct. But I think the type of change that I like, the type of teams I like, and the change that's coming are very aligned.
Mm,
I truly believe that a manager or leader is capable of managing about seven plus or minus three folks.
mm,
Here, I'm quoting myself here. So, like more than that, and you do not have time for humans. Now, if you don't think that humans are, important to grow and lead and manage, then you're gonna not listen to me, and you should hang up right now. So that is such a thing is that I am a function of my success is a function of the team's success, and I grow by growing my team. So, and I can only do that with seven plus or minus three, and that apply the plus or minus is for a brand new manager versus a very seasoned manager. But like,
mm,
if one of my teams has 11 folks, I am in my head going, one person is not getting the leadership attention that they need. One, if it's 13, I'm like, rattle
mm.
fire. If it's 15, I'm like, well, we have a huge disaster here. That contradicts other leadership
Yeah.
organizational styles. So, but the other part of that is sort of the layering from the CEO and the individual who is working. And I try to keep that in the places I've worked. Obviously, not Apple, because it's a big place, but everyone else. It's to try to keep 3 layers from Bob, who's a brand new engineer, and Julia, who's the CEO. 3 layers. So that's Julia, VP, director, manager. 3 layers. And that sounds like a lot for a startup, but go look at Chase. Go look into it's like just layers and layers and vastly trillion-dollar businesses there.
Yeah.
But anywhere that I'm working, I'm trying to keep it light, just because I want that communication from up and down is a lot easier to get done,
Yeah.
and it's less error prone. So that's just how I build teams, and it's worked out well.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this answer is that basically, if I get this right, you said it's not like AI is changing what the ideal organization or the ideal team looks like in terms of
Hmm.
shape and size. It's more
Yeah.
like it is making what was already possibly the best type of
Yep.
team the even bester.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my version, I agree with that, but like I've been doing a ton of work with AI. I've been using all of them and just kind of getting a sense of sort of the art of the possible. The From a 0 to 60, from a prototyping an idea thing, I've never seen better in
Yeah.
terms of just like I just kind of want to riff on this thing. I don't have as much data about how it's going to do well about an existing ginormous code base and
Mhm.
sort of that thing. But as a prototyping tool, but more importantly, as a research tool in terms of asking questions, saying, "Why is this?" I'm like, "I've forgotten how this shell script works. Just explain this to me again."
Mm.
It knows. It always knows. And I think that's an accelerant. I think that's an accelerant. Um, and I think that the engineers and the leaders who embrace that, well, this is going to come back and haunt me in like 10 years, um,
We'll save this
are like,
clip.
no, it's okay. I do believe this because I've just been seeing it for 30 years. When the Apple II came out, there was a whole backlash of people, probably accountants or other folks that were like enjoyed writing things down on paper, who were the Apple II, no modem, like nothing, no internet, nothing, just a computing device
Yes.
of the simplest form, not the simplest, it's very complex. So that's the same thing that's happening right now. And I think there's a group that's going to be like, "Arr, I'm cranky with it." And there's going to be a group who's going to see it as an accelerator. And
Mm.
I see it as an accelerator right now. I've done more coding in the last month than I have in the last 10 years. Like we're talking thousands and thousands of lines. Important to note, I didn't write any of it. Like, but I did work, and now I have this tool that's doing this. I have this tool that's doing that, and it's teaching me things. Like
Yeah.
this is dumb, but I was doing some facial care stuff, and I forgot what I bought, so I took a picture of the little face cream thing. I said, "What is this?" And it's like, "This is the Sturm thing." And da 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 da. Would you like me to tell you what order to do these in? I'm like, "Yes, I would like you to do that." And now everything's all arranged in the medicine cabinet, and like no ads. Talked like a human. I asked a human question, got a human answer, and I got huge value out of it. I
Yeah.
challenge you to do the same thing inside of a Google or whatever
Yeah.
your search engine is. That's like forget about the acceleration, just the knowledge assistant, that ability to help you answer questions and
Yeah.
to wonder about things. Like that that's good for us. And usually when I say this sort of impassioned, foamy at the mouth thing that I'm doing with you right now, someone goes, "Well, how do you know it's not lying to you?" I'm like, how do I know that anybody's not lying to me? Like,
Yes.
I need to have that skill 24/7 because people lie to me all the time,
Yeah.
and I need to know
Yes.
like, oh, you're trustworthy, you're not, and if if I don't trust you, please tell me why you believe that thing or what is your source on that thing. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. It's just a robot that you're
Yeah.
probably scared about, which is why you're ripping on it. And by the
Yeah.
way, it makes mistakes.
Yes.
Welcome to the planet Earth. We
Yeah.
all do. Like it's the most human thing that it does. Phew, that's a good line. Um,
Yes, that's good. I think because I think that many people like intuitively compare the qualities of these AI systems
yeah,
to other computing systems that people
yeah,
always had. And
yeah,
one quality of software is that it's either like 100% correct, right, or 100% wrong. Well, and while this is not a good metaphor for AI, which is
Right.
probably the good analogy, is more like, as you said, a person. Sometimes
Yeah.
is right, sometimes is wrong,
Yeah.
makes mistakes,
Yep.
but it's hard maybe to see things that way. I don't know.
Well, and by the way, there's this really important skill with both humans as leaders and with robots is you tell me something and you say, "Hey, I believe this thing," and "Uh-huh, tell me why you believe that." This,
Mm,
and this." I'm like, "Uh-huh, that's interesting. Did you think about this?" You're like, "No, I didn't. That updates my model. I mean, sorry, that updates my priors on that." I'm like, "Great. We just learned something together. I was sharing my experience. You were testing a thesis with me. We debated it a little bit, and you went back. I've had many interactions with AI over the last 3, 4 months where I'm like, cool, generate this script for me. Okay. Huh. Why did you do this? And it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I thought you wanted this to be spaced and not this sort of thing. And I'm like, yeah,
yes.
right. Like, okay, cool, thanks. And then it fixes it, right? It generated bugs. It didn't do what I expected. And we had a conversation and it didn't learn because these are not learning models
Yes.
yet. um, but it learned in the context of that one conversation for me. And like, it's very, there's a skill there about me going, is this bullshit? Is
Yes.
this real or not? And like looking at it and verifying it and testing it and going and saying,
Yes.
oh yeah, you're right. That's what's, or no, this is wrong. Like it's a normal thing. And this folks who are worried about their jobs being replaced, again, this will blow up in my face in like 10 years. Like, I think they want the quick hack. They just want to say, cool, I don't
Yes.
want to fix that bug anymore. I just want the robot to do it. I'm like, yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble because, yes, it can be an accelerant. Yes, it can help you automate or make that more efficient. You still have a responsibility to think, to
Yes.
ask great questions, and to not trust the answer without verifying it. Right? Like that's this is the human
Yeah.
condition is, and I hope that that's actually a good thing in a world where a lot of folks are just consuming what they're reading on the internet and going like, "Oh, this is the truth." It's like, yeah, it's really not.
Yeah, and not only I agree, but I think that, I mean, many of the skills that are required of you to make the most out of this,
Yeah,
out of AI, are actually similar to how you make the most out of working with people, because it's
agreed.
about giving great context, great
Hmm.
feedback, being
Yeah,
thorough about what you need and how you want to
right.
things to be done. I mean, if you're good at that, chances are you can
Yeah,
be a good work with humans as
yeah.
well.
No, I think it's really you make a really really good point, which is some of my biggest mistakes with AI is when my question wasn't good or my prompt wasn't
Yes.
good. It did exactly what I told it to.
Yeah.
It did exactly what I told it to. And you know what I did? I was too vague. Like there's a specificity thing that is really
Yes.
interesting to watch it do. And the more that you get, there was a prompt. I would think I was using Claude, and it was like, uh, write the prompt like you're talking to one of your a junior engineer and be super specific or something like that. And that's right. That's because it's
Yes.
kind of a baby, right? And
Yes.
it does exactly what it tells you. And I mean, it like makes leaps and it does intuition and whatever the right words are to describe it. But the more you're precise, the more you're clear with your robots or your team, the happier everyone's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Also, because I think, I mean, one of the differences when you work with humans is that we take for granted how much implicit context we have already
Hmm.
shared with another
Yeah.
person about our workplace, our team,
Yeah.
our the
Yeah.
goals,
Totally.
our things, and AI knows nothing about this.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not like you can condense what you need in like one sentence, as you would with one person that you'll be working with for like
Yep.
5 years, right? So
Agreed.
that's
Agreed.
the gap, I think, in many cases, not the pure intelligence or raw power of the model.
Hmm. Yeah, there's another thing on the human side of that is people. This is just being a human. They don't like to feel like they don't know. Like I feel
Mm.
dumb, right? And they often don't ask. So I can get foamy at the mouth and talk about something. They're like, "Well, he's super fired about this topic that I barely understand what he's saying." Humans sometimes, when they trust you, will raise their hand and be like, "Do you mean this?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's what I mean." They're like, "Okay, that's not what I heard." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Thank you for asking." It's something I'd
Yeah.
like to see out of the robots a little bit more. It's a little bit more like, "Did you mean to do this?" Like
Yeah.
these agent tools right now are doing more of it in terms of saying like, "Hey, I'm about to remove this file from your file system. Are you sure about this?" I'm like, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted you to do." So that back and forth is for both the humans and the robots. I think is a way for us to learn about each other.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So since we are launching ourselves into predictions that are going to be embarrassing in a few years or months from now, so we have talked about things that are changing, but what are the things instead that on midterm you think are not changing, are staying the same about our jobs, about engineering teams?
That's a good question.
It's even harder
What
to answer.
what is not changing?
Yes.
Um, I do not. I'm sure that we're going to. There's going to be some shift in terms of how many humans are necessary to get the job done in a world where you have these really interesting tools to kind of
Mm.
help you get started or to help you kind of go faster. But I just don't. I think there's the last 10% that of a very hard project or a design or an application that involves such deep knowledge and intuition to it's like a writing.
Mm.
I can write 1,000 words and they're pretty good. What makes it great is the editing and the last 10% of the work.
Mm.
So with that work to kind of refine it, to read it, to let it sit there a week and go back and read it again. And like I don't know. I feel like I haven't done this math. Like it's maybe twice as much work as writing the piece. And
Yes.
it's not like writing it out. It's like thinking about it and getting on your bike and doing that sort of thing to take it from average to great. That last 10% of not the work, but that of the time, if you will, it's a huge amount of time. But that's the difference. And I don't see a lot of art and flair
Mm.
in AI. Someone just literally mailed me yesterday, and it was hey, you want to do a podcast with us? And I'm like, this is a robot. I'm 100%
Immediately.
sure.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm like, wow, this is pretty personal. Oh, wow, this is just like poorly reading my Wikipedia page. And then they followed up this morning, and it was like, hey, I saw that Aaron mailed you. And I'm like, this is 1,000% a robot. And because it was tinny, it was dumb.
Mm.
Um, and so I think there's this last 10% of flair, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that is not changing. And I dare to say this. I'm excited about that. I don't think we're actually seeing a lot of the things that these robots allow us to do when you combine it with that last 10% of a human making
Yeah.
it just phenomenal. And
Yeah.
that's the piece I don't think is changing right now because
Mm.
it's mimicking stuff. It's showing you patterns that already exist.
Yeah.
And you know what that looks like. What your brain really loves, what we really love is truly innovating and building that new thing, whatever that is. And I think that is going to be the speed by which we do it maybe is faster, but don't think it makes the hard work go away. We
Yeah.
got to litigate it. We got to get in a room and talk about what makes it great and argue about that piece. And
Yeah.
the robots are not doing that yet. So anyway, that's one thing. There's probably
Yeah.
others.
And when you think about this 10% that is left, what does it look like? Do you think it's more like a specific part? For example, if we think at the development process, it's more
Right,
like
right.
system design. There are many predictions that say, I don't know,
Hmm.
engineers are going to work mostly on system design, mostly on architecture, and less on coding. Or do you think this is like a horizontal thing where we are going to do 10% of everything that is just like Q&A and injecting our own creativity on all the things?
I think I understand your question. I think the work which is sort of easy to describe and structured, the
Mm.
robots are going to be great at that. And that whether that's testing or like dude, here's something. Just a quick story from last weekend. I was writing this script. I was describing how I wanted the script to be written to look at a watch site and to kind of look at it every hour and kind of scrape it and pull it down and do something there. And it was screwing up. Kind of was working and it was screwing up, and I was getting increasingly frustrated with it. I'm like, no, don't do this. And it's like, okay, great. And then I'm like, the second time, I'm like, yeah, this is still not doing this thing yet. Here's the thing, man, that kind of blew my mind. It, this is Claude, by the way. It said, okay, yeah, this is still wrong. It says, okay, what I want to do is I want to actually go and run this script now against the site, see what the output is, and then report back to you, which is testing, by the way.
Mhm.
And I hadn't done this yet, and it's very easy for us to do, but it's like I didn't say go run the script and tell me what's happening. It chose to do that, right?
Yeah.
Chose is a strong word. But it was like it knew that it knew that it was screwing up, and it said, okay, I need a different path here. What's a good path? How about testing? um, that was I was like, whoa! Like I would have suggested that if I even know there was a thing it could do because I was kind of in learning
Yes.
mode. So that's there. So like, and it did it. It ran it, and it said, okay, cool. Lopp's expecting these 4 parameters. I'm only getting these 3. What's wrong? And it's okay. Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me try this. It did all that, and so I think there's again. I think for very structured things, it can be very. I think that group of that work is going to fall into the robots, and so if that's your world right now,
Mm.
get used to the robots or jump in and start using them. But then there's sort of the art of it. Like I have this script that's running. This is insane what I'm about to describe. And what it does, it checks like every 15 minutes, and it's sitting in a terminal window. And every 15 minutes, it goes tick or talk randomly. And I say randomly say tick or talk, like a clock, right? And I'm like, okay, great. And then I'm sitting there going like, you know what would be funny is every time that it does 5 in a row, I'm going to call it disco, and it's going to keep track of that. So it goes tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and then I'm looking down, and every time it does 5 in a row, the 6th one, it goes disco, and then it saves that. Now you're smiling because you know this is just goofy and just insane, but you're smiling, and because I'm doing a very human thing, which is sort of this
Yes.
irrational kind of weirdness, and like
Yes.
never in a million years. Well, again, famous last words. Like that's a very human thing
Yeah.
to be like putting a little bit of joy or humor or something into something that unexpectedly, right?
Yeah.
And I think those are the things, whether it's writing or coding or whatever you're building with these things, that's the human aspect of you kind of pouring a little bit of your sort of error prone, insane self into these things. And when you look at great products, I think you see the care, but you
Yeah.
also see a little, you see a little bit of humans, and they're going like, "Oh, this is kind of funky." Like,
Yes.
it doesn't
Yes.
feel like a template. It doesn't feel like boilerplate. It doesn't feel like enterprise software. It feels like something that is human, and that is that last 10% we were talking about.
Yeah, that's I love this. I agree 100%. I think also this is a perfect closure and parting thought. So thank you so much, Rands,
Absolutely,
for this chat. I had a lot
yeah,
of fun, took a lot of notes. Thank you again for coming on the show.
absolutely, great, great. You did great prep. That's unusual in podcasts. So good job.
Thank you so much. It means really a lot. Thank you.
Great,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found this chat valuable, you can subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leaving a review, as that really helps other listeners find the show. You can find all past episodes and learn more about the show at refactoring.fm. See you in the next episode.